Does weird stuff happen to you when you orgasm? You sneeze, get a headache, cry, or break out in laughter? I'm Dr. Rena Malik, urologist and pelvic surgeon, and today we're talking about orgasms and why sometimes your body might be having unusual responses after orgasm. Most people think that these are just like anxiety or stress or being in your head, but that's not what the research shows. Before we get into it, I want to tell you guys about my free guide, Better Sex, Better Life, my top 10 tips for maximizing pleasure and improving your sex life. It's completely free. Check it out in the description below or at renamalikmd.com/more pleasure. Now, these experiences have a name. They're called peri-orgasmic phenomena. Peri meaning around, because these responses happen during the specific window of time around orgasm. And these symptoms can be headaches, muscle weakness that's so sudden that you can't hold yourself up, foot pain, face tingling, spontaneous crying, uncontrollable laughter, and even hallucinations. While there's been many scattered case reports, there's never been a real understanding of why this happens or how often. So a research team decided to find out exactly why. In fact, one of the researchers has been on the podcast, Dr. Lauren Stryker. So check out that episode if you want to learn more. So in this study, they created a short video explaining the peri-orgasmic phenomena and posted the video on social media, on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. The video said, if you've experienced something unusual at orgasm, click here and take our anonymous survey. So 3,800 women saw the video, and of those 3,800, 86 said, or about 2.2%, which is not insignificant, they said, yes, that's me. And of those, 62% reported symptoms that were physical in nature. So the most common was headaches. 33% of women said, we're getting headaches after orgasm. And they're not just describing a mild pressure in the head. In some of those prior cases, women described full-blown migraines that lasted for days after orgasm. After headaches, 24% reported sudden muscle weakness, and 19% experienced foot pain or tingling. Now, foot pain might sound weird, but there's actually a neurological explanation. The brain areas that process sensation from the genitals and the feet are very close to each other on the homunculus, or the part of the brain that processes that. And in some people who have maybe nerve issues or certain medical histories, those signals can sort of cross, in which cases they may have sort of sharp pain shooting into the feet right at climax. Then you can have sort of the less common physical responses. These were facial tingling, itching, sneezing, yawning, ear pain, and even nosebleeds. And the other side of it was emotional symptoms. So 88% of the entire group said that they had some form of an emotional symptom as well. 63% cried with orgasm, and that's not because they were sad or hurt. It just like spontaneously started having tears form. And this is sometimes called postcoital dysphoria. And I've talked about sort of why this happens before in a video where I talked about post-nut clarity. So check that one out. 43% of these people felt sadness, but they didn't actually cry. And that was, again, often when the experience was still completely positive. 43% laughed. And interestingly, before this study, there was no medical literature that talked about orgasm and laughing. But if you've looked online, you'll find personal stories from people who describe exactly this, feeling like completely alone because they're laughing and they can't control it. And 4% experienced hallucinations, which is wild. Here's even more interesting, is that 52% of women had more than one symptom. They were either crying and laughing at the same time, they were having a headache followed by tears, they were having muscle weakness followed by sudden laughter. So now you probably have the same question that I had when I read the study. Why does any of this happen? Researchers didn't just ask women what they were experiencing, they asked when. Did they notice this with their partners? Did they notice this when they were masturbating by themselves? And 69% of women said these phenomena happened only sometimes, not with every orgasm, and sometimes it was unpredictable. And only 17% experienced these symptoms with every single orgasm. But when looking at having these by yourselves or with someone, 51% exclusively had them during partnered sex, and only 9% experienced them during masturbation to leading to solo sexing to orgasm, and 14% during vibrator use. So basically, the majority of women who have these peri-orgasmic phenomena only have them when there's another person involved. So what's the theory? Well, it's probably not about the physical intensity of the orgasm, because vibrators can produce very intense orgasms, and this wasn't a large proportion. So it was probably in relation to the emotional experience of being with another person. Because when you're with another person, you're not just having physical sensations. You might be navigating vulnerability, connection, maybe even performance anxiety, and your attachment system is getting activated. So you have all this neurophysiological pathways, and you have a release of hormones, probably in higher amounts, like endorphins, including dopamine and oxytocin, which can cause intense emotions. When thinking about headaches, there's actually been some report that people tense their jaw and neck muscles during arousal and sexual excitation. And so perhaps that increase of sort of pressure and contraction of the muscles also increases blood pressure and blood flow that then leads to headaches. While it's not completely clear, there's one thing you should know. If you have a severe sudden onset headache, like the worst headache of your life, don't think this is just a peri-orgasmic phenomenon. Don't ignore it. Get medical attention immediately, because it could be something significantly more serious. Now, in terms of muscle weakness, the researchers described it as sort of similar to cataplexy, like people who have narcolepsy experience. And those people experience it typically when they have strong positive emotions. And so it may be the same thing. Sneezing and yawning are often described as very similar to orgasm. They're involuntary autonomic reflexes. And so perhaps when the autonomic nervous system is activated during orgasm, these might sort of overflow from the neurological signaling, so you get sneezing and yawning. Bottom line, orgasm is like hijacking your entire involuntary nervous system for a short period of time. But for some women, the interaction between their nervous system and orgasm leads to some really unexpected side effects. But what I want you to take away is, if you're one of these few people who has issues during orgasm, nothing is wrong with you. It just means that your nervous system is doing something complex. If you guys found this interesting, or maybe it helped answer a question that you never knew you even had or who to ask, please share this video with someone who might need to hear it. And don't forget to subscribe, because this is a signal to me and to other people that, hey, you guys are enjoying this content, and to keep coming. Every week, I'm going to be back here providing you with evidence-based education about sexual health and urologic health. So thank you guys so much for joining me. And as always, remember to take care of yourself, because you're worth it.